Today, we're diving into something that's really the heart of Indian democracy, the fundamental rights in the Constitution. Now, these aren't just some dusty legal terms on a page. Think of them as a personal shield, a guarantee that protects every single citizen. So let's get right into it.
But first, just take a second and imagine this. What if you couldn't speak your mind, or practice your faith, or even just be treated as an equal? What if there were no checks on the government's power over your life? Well, that's the exact world these constitutional rights are designed to prevent.
You know, these words from Nelson Mandela, they really hit hard. They're such a powerful reminder that the rights we're talking about aren't just abstract ideas. They were born from incredible struggle, fought for by people who knew exactly what it felt like to live in a world without them. To really get why these rights matter so much, I think we have to understand what that world without them actually looks like. And the system that Mandela fought against? Well, it's one of the clearest and most painful examples.
Under apartheid in South Africa, a person's rights, their entire life really, was determined by the color of their skin. It was a brutal government-enforced system of segregation and injustice. This is what happens when a state actively works to suppress the freedom of its own people.
So how does a country stop something like that from ever happening? How does it protect its citizens from that kind of arbitrary, unjust power? Well, for India, the answer was written right into its founding document, the Constitution.
Remember, India was coming out of a very long freedom struggle. The framers of the Constitution knew they needed to make an unbreakable promise to the people. So they built a set of rights so foundational, so fundamental, that they became the very bedrock of the nation's law.
And here they are, the 6 big ones. You can think of these as the 6 pillars of Indian democracy. Each one is a specific promise. So let's break down what they actually mean for you and me in our day-to-day lives.
All right, let's start with 2 rights that are really the absolute building blocks of any free society, the right to equality and the right to freedom.
Now, the right to equality is so interesting because it works in 2 ways. It's not just about stopping bad things, like you see on the left, prohibiting discrimination and banning the practice of untouchability. It also empowers the government to do good things, to take proactive steps like reservations or policies like the midday meal scheme, all to create a more level playing field for everyone.
Next up is the right to freedom. And you can think of this one as a whole bundle of essential liberties. It includes things like freedom of speech and expression, of course, but it also includes the super important protection of your life and personal liberty. Basically, the state can't just come after you on a whim. There has to be a fair, just, and established process.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road. If a person is arrested, the Constitution doesn't just suggest these things, it guarantees these 3 critical safeguards. You have to be told why you're arrested, you have to be seen by a magistrate within 24 hours, and you have the right to a lawyer. These are hard and fast rules to prevent the misuse of power.
Okay, so moving on, we've got rights that are specifically designed to protect human dignity and to make sure the most vulnerable among us aren't taken advantage of.
Reading this, it's just awful. This is from a real account, and it's a gut-wrenching reminder of exactly why the right against exploitation is in the Constitution. It's there specifically to ban things like forced labor, human trafficking, and the kind of horrific violations of dignity that you see described right here. And that connects directly to this. Article 21, the right to life. Now, what's so crucial to understand is how the Supreme Court has interpreted this over the years. They've said, you know what? This isn't just about the right not to be killed. It's about the right to live with human dignity. And that includes basic things like the right to a livelihood. The Olga Tellas case is the perfect example of this idea in action. The court looked at the situation and basically said, if you just evict people from their homes and offer them no alternative, you're not just taking away their shelter, you're taking away their ability to make a living. And that, they ruled, is a violation of their right to life. It's a powerful moment where you see the court stepping in as guardians of these rights.
One of India's greatest strengths is its incredible diversity, right? Well, the Constitution doesn't just tolerate this diversity, it actively puts protections in place for it through some very specific rights. So here you have 2 of the big ones. The right to freedom of religion ensures every single person can follow their own faith. And at the same time, the cultural and educational rights give minority communities the power to protect their unique languages and traditions. Together, these form the constitutional backbone of India's multicultural fabric.
So we've gone through 5 sets of rights, but honestly, they would all be kind of meaningless without this 6th and final one. This is the right that gives all the other rights their teeth.
This is the right to remedies. It's a simple idea, but it is incredibly powerful.
What it means is that if any of your other fundamental rights are violated, you have the right to go directly to a court and demand justice.
Think of it like this. The Constitution gives you a house full of precious rights, right? Well, the right to constitutional remedies is the key to the front door. Without that key, you could see all those rights inside, but you'd never be able to access them. This right is the guardian, the master key that makes the entire promise of the Constitution real and enforceable.
So all this leaves us with one last question to chew on. The Constitution gives us the shield, and the courts give us a way to use it. But what does it take for us, as citizens, to make sure these rights are a lived reality for every single person in a nation of over a billion people? What's our role in all this? Definitely something to think about.